I thought I was finally in love after meeting him on a mental health app. But months later, I found out he wasn't even real. He was just my ex best friend catfishing me to ruin my life for revenge. I never thought I'd meet someone on a mental health app. It wasn't even meant for dating, it was more like a support space. You'd join group chats, talk about your struggles, vent if you needed to, and most of the time, no one even used real names. That's why it felt safe. No pressure to impress, no filters, no pretending. At the time, I was going through one of the darkest periods of my life. My anxiety had gotten so bad that I dropped out of college temporarily. I was back home in Michigan, living in my childhood bedroom with my mom constantly asking me if I was okay, and I kept lying that I was. I spent most nights scrolling aimlessly through apps or journaling just to stay sane. That's when I found Hollowspace, a mental health app I'd seen on a Reddit thread. It wasn't like social media, there were no likes or followers, just real people having raw conversations. I joined a few late night group chats and slowly started opening up. It felt freeing to say things out loud to strangers without fear of judgment. And then came Jaden. At first, he didn't stand out. He had a simple profile, a black and white profile pic of what looked like a guy around my age, and his bio just said, trying to get better one day at a time. We started talking in the same group chat about social anxiety, and I noticed he always replied to my comments with kindness and understanding. Not the over the top kind, just real, thoughtful stuff. Eventually, we started messaging one on one. He told me he'd been through a breakup that messed him up and that he'd been struggling with panic attacks and isolation too. His honesty was disarming. I told him things I hadn't even told my therapist. And he listened. Every day. For hours. Weeks turned into months. Jaden became the highlight of my day. He'd send me good morning messages, remind me to drink water, and we'd have these long, deep conversations about life, healing, and hope. He made me laugh when I didn't think I could anymore. I didn't realize it at first, but I was falling for him. He never pressured me to send photos or video call, which made me trust him more. He said it made him anxious too, and honestly, I respected that. We were just two broken people trying to feel whole again. Or at least, that's what I believed. My mom started noticing a change in me. You're smiling more, she said one morning. Something's different. And it was. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I felt like I was moving forward. I even started considering going back to college next semester. I told Jaden about it, and he was proud. You're stronger than you think, Kayla, he texted one night. You've got this. No one had ever said that to me in a way that actually felt like they meant it. I was in love. Fully, completely, hopelessly in love with someone I'd never met. But that's the thing about online love. It lives in a fantasy. And I was about to wake up to the cruelest reality of all. There were little things I should have noticed. But when you want something to be real so badly, your brain edits out the noise. You ignore the warning signs, convincing yourself it's all in your head. Like the fact that Jaden never wanted to video call. Not once. I'd ask sometimes, casually, like, "Want to FaceTime later?" And he'd always have an excuse: bad Wi-Fi, anxiety, not feeling camera ready. I didn't push. I understood anxiety. I had it too. Then there were moments where things he said felt eerily specific, like he knew more about me than I told him. I chalked it up to coincidence. Wow, it's like you're in my head. I'd laugh. He'd just send a smiley face or some quote that sounded deep at the time. But the weirdest moment happened one afternoon when he asked me, "Do you still wear that green hoodie with the rip on the sleeve?" I froze. I'd never mentioned that hoodie to him, not once. It was something I wore around the house when I was too depressed to get dressed. How could he possibly know? When I asked, he backtracked fast. "Oh, maybe I'm confusing you with someone else from the chat." Sorry, my memory's crap. I let it go. Because again, I didn't want to believe anything was off. I needed him to be real. Meanwhile, I was opening up more and more. I started writing poetry again. I shared my fears about going back to school, my unresolved trauma from my dad leaving, Even my past friendship with someone I used to consider a sister, Alyssa. We'd grown up together, inseparable for years. But something shifted during our senior year of high school. She started pulling away, hanging out with a new crowd, and one day just ghosted me. No explanation. No goodbye. It broke my heart. I told Jaden everything. How Alyssa had once said we'd be ride or die, and how she completely turned her back on me when I needed her most. He listened. He sympathized. Some people are just fake, he'd say. You deserve better. Looking back, those conversations feel poison now. Like I was handing over pieces of myself to someone who was quietly building a weapon. Because the more I opened up, the more power I unknowingly gave him. And soon, he was going to use it to destroy me. It started with an anonymous email. Subject line: You don't know who you're really talking to. At first, I thought it was spam. I almost deleted it. But something about the wording felt intentional, like it was meant just for me. The message was short, but it hit me like a punch to the chest. Jaden isn't who you think he is. You're being lied to. Think back. Really think. The truth is closer than you realize. That was it. No name, no explanation. Just a seed of doubt dropped into my mind like poison. And once it was there, it started to spread. I didn't want to believe it. I tried to shake it off, convince myself it was just a troll or someone being cruel for no reason. But something inside me shifted. I started rereading old messages. I paid attention to details, phrases Jaden used, the way he always knew just the right thing to say. Suddenly, it all felt too curated, too scripted. I confronted him about the email. He brushed it off instantly. People are weird online, he said. Probably someone jealous of what we have. But something about his tone felt different. Off. For the first time, he didn't sound like the person I thought I knew. I couldn't let it go. My anxiety took over. I did something I never thought I'd do. I reverse searched his profile picture. It took less than 30 seconds. The photo wasn't of someone named Jaden. It was a stock image used on dozens of wellness blogs and therapy websites. My heart dropped. I stared at the screen, my whole body numb. He wasn't real. Jaden didn't exist. But then, who had I been talking to? I was shaking when I opened our messages again. I read every line with new eyes. It felt like I was reading the diary of a stranger. The intimacy, the comfort, the late night confessions, all of it tainted. I remembered something else he'd once said in a throwaway comment. Your laugh always made people jealous, especially her. I never thought much of it at the time, but now it rang in my ears like a warning bell. There was only one person who had ever said something similar to me before. Alyssa. No, it couldn't be. But once the suspicion was there, I couldn't unsee it. The specific knowledge, the hoodie comment, the personal wounds that only someone close could know. The way Jaden always seemed to have the perfect insight into my darkest insecurities. It all made a sick kind of sense. My ex-best friend, Alyssa, the one who abandoned me, the one I confided in for years, the one I told my entire soul to. She had catfished me. I couldn't breathe. Why? Why would someone go to such terrifying lengths? Was this her twisted revenge for our friendship ending? I needed proof. I remembered we'd shared passwords for an old email back when we were friends for a joint school project. On a whim, I tried logging in. It worked. And what I found there shattered me. Dozens of saved drafts, conversations written out in advance, fake schedules, timelines for messages, even a spreadsheet labeled Kayla Manip Plan. Every detail of our chats was mapped out. Every response calculated. My hands were shaking. I felt like I was going to throw up. I sat there, staring at the screen, as the betrayal crushed me from the inside out. Alyssa, my best friend since childhood, had created a fake person, earned my trust, made me fall in love, just to emotionally destroy me. For revenge. And the worst part? It had worked. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at my ceiling, replaying every message, every memory, every conversation with Jaden. The way he'd comforted me when I cried. The way he'd encouraged me to go back to school. The way I told him things I'd never even told my therapist. And it was all a performance. Every word. Fake. I kept asking myself why. Why would Alyssa go through all this trouble, months of messages, fake identities, lies, just to hurt me? The next morning, I made a decision. I was going to confront her. I couldn't move forward until I got answers, even if those answers ripped me apart. I hadn't seen her in almost 2 years, but I still had her number. I sent her one message. I know it was you. We need to talk, face to face. She didn't respond at first. Hours passed. I thought maybe she'd block me or deny everything like a coward. But then, around 6 p.m., a reply came in. Fine. Meet me at the coffee shop on Main, 8:30. I almost backed out. I was terrified of seeing her, of hearing the truth out loud. But I owed it to myself. I showed up early. She arrived late. Typical Alyssa. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. She looked polished, almost cold, like the version of herself she'd always tried to become back in high school. She didn't smile when she saw me. She just sat down like this was a business meeting. I'm not going to pretend, she said immediately. You figured it out. Congratulations. Just like that. No apology. No shame. No remorse. I was stunned into silence. Why? I finally whispered. Why would you do something so cruel? Why catfish me? What did I ever do to you? She tilted her head, as if offended by the question. You really don't know? I stared at her, heart pounding. No, I don't. Please tell me. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. You always played the victim, Kayla. Back in school, it was always about you, your anxiety, your problems, your depression. Everyone loved you because you were fragile, but I was the one holding you up. I was your emotional punching bag. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's not true, I said, voice trembling. You were my best friend. I never used you. She laughed bitterly. You don't even realize how selfish you were. After my parents divorced, you didn't even notice I was falling apart. But your problems? They were front page news. When people talked about us, it was always, poor Kayla. Isn't she so brave for getting through so much? No one ever asked how I was doing. I was speechless. My chest felt like it was caving in. And when I finally distanced myself to take care of my own mental health, she continued, you acted like I abandoned you. You cried, made me the villain. Everyone did. So, yeah, I wanted you to feel what I felt. Forgotten, unseen, manipulated. My eyes burned. I couldn't believe this was the same girl I once trusted with every part of myself. So you created a fake person, I said, tears falling freely now. You made me fall in love. Just to get revenge for a friendship that didn't end the way you wanted? She didn't flinch. I wanted you to understand what it's like to believe in someone, to trust them, to feel safe, and then lose it all. I couldn't stop crying. People in the cafe were starting to look over, but I didn't care. I do know what that feels like, I said, my voice breaking. Because I trusted you. I loved you like a sister, and you broke me in ways I can't even describe. Her expression softened for a moment. Just a flicker of the old Alyssa. I didn't expect it to go that far, she murmured. I thought I'd just talk to you a little, confuse you, maybe mess with your head. But you were so needy. You poured your whole soul into me. And somewhere along the line, I couldn't stop. I started liking being the one you depended on. It was addicting. I stood up. I couldn't sit there anymore. You need help, I said quietly. Serious help. She looked away. I already lost you once, I added. But this wasn't just losing a friend. This was psychological abuse. I'm going to need a long time to recover. But I will recover. And with that, I walked out. I didn't look back. But as I stepped into the night air, something in me shifted. The healing would be slow. The betrayal would leave scars. But I was done letting other people define my worth. I was taking my story back. The days after the confrontation were blurry. I felt like I was grieving a relationship that never existed and a friendship I'd already lost long ago, but was now truly, irreversibly gone. The betrayal cut deep. There were moments I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I could have been so blind. How I let someone take up so much of my heart, only to twist it into something cruel. But in that pain, something else started to grow: clarity. For the first time in years, I saw my story from the outside. I had been vulnerable, yes, but I wasn't weak. I had survived abandonment, mental health battles, and now this. I had trusted, and that's not something to be ashamed of. That was strength. I started going back to therapy more regularly. At first, it was hard to even speak about Jaden or Alyssa. Every sentence felt like I was reliving the nightmare. But my therapist helped me understand that what Alyssa did wasn't just personal, it was emotional manipulation, gaslighting, abuse. And I wasn't crazy for falling for it. I was human. I also made a quiet decision not to tell too many people right away. Not because I was protecting Alyssa, but because I wanted space to heal without everyone else's opinions clouding my progress. I needed to rebuild me before explaining anything to anyone else. I journaled every day. Sometimes it was just a sentence. Other times, I wrote letters I never sent. Letters to Jaden, letters to Alyssa, letters to myself. I stopped asking why it happened and started asking, what now? Who do I want to become from this? Slowly, I began reconnecting with real people in my life, friends I had pushed away while I was wrapped up in the fantasy. I told my mom everything. She cried with me. She was heartbroken for me, but she was proud of how I was facing it. You loved with your whole heart, she said. That's something to be proud of, not ashamed. Her words stayed with me. Eventually, I returned to college. It was hard. I struggled to trust people. Every time someone texted me a compliment, I questioned their motives. I stopped using anonymous apps altogether, but I didn't shut down forever. I joined an in-person support group for women recovering from emotional trauma. At first, I barely spoke. I just listened. But over time, I started sharing pieces of my story. The more I opened up, the more I realized how not alone I was. One woman had been catfished by someone pretending to be a long-distance soldier. Another had been manipulated by an old high school friend posing as a romantic interest on social media. It was terrifying how common it was, and how isolating it could feel. But there was power in telling the truth. So I kept telling mine. Eventually, I turned my story into a blog post. Not with names, not with drama, but with truth. I titled it, When Healing Became a Lie, My Journey Through Betrayal and Back. It went viral in a small way. People from all over messaged me saying they'd been through something similar. Some said they finally felt seen. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was helping others. And then, something strange happened. I got a message from an old friend from high school. Her name was Rebecca. We weren't super close back then, but we had a few classes together. She said she'd read my blog and wanted to meet up sometime for coffee. No pressure. At first, I hesitated, but something told me maybe this was the next step. We met on a rainy Thursday afternoon. She was warm, kind, and real. There was no love bombing, no instant fairy tale connection, just honest conversation, shared laughter, and a mutual understanding that we'd both been through some messy things. And that's where I learned something I'll never forget. Real connections don't rush, they build, brick by brick, word by word. As the months passed, Rebecca became someone I trusted, a real friend, a quiet, solid presence who reminded me that not everyone wants to break you. One evening, while walking home from campus, I got a message from a new number. It was from Alyssa. I'm in therapy. I'm trying to change. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I'm sorry. I stared at the screen for a long time, and then I deleted the message, not out of anger, but because I didn't need it anymore. I didn't need her words to validate what I went through. I didn't need her apology to move forward. I had already done the hardest thing. I forgave myself for trusting, for falling, for hurting, for hoping. And then I kept going. Because in the end, my life is not defined by the people who lied to me. It's defined by how I choose to live after the truth. And I choose peace. I choose healing. I choose me.